What's up, everybody? It's your boy Nazo back for another episode of the Rican Brothers Raidernation podcast. Flying solo tonight, and just want to touch base with everyone. I'm still going to be doing a pregame show, and at this time, everyone's kind of dealing with the aftermath of the Henry Ruggs incident, and it's just devastating. Especially for the Raiders organization, just for the senseless act done by Henry Ruggs, who had so much promise and seemed to be a budding star in the NFL. And, the biggest loss here is the family of the young woman who did die in that car crash at 23 years old, Tina Tinter. The name has been released, and I just kind of wanted to, talk about it a little bit, get some feelings out, and just kind of drop a little video before we do our pregame show for the upcoming matchup with the New York Giants and Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I wanted to wait for kind of all the information to come out. And, initially on Twitter, there was an initial cat who posted something. And one of the big Raider fans, Lucille, she had called him out and mentioned something. And she did end up apologizing because it ended up being true. And it didn't come from a reliable source as far as what I could see. And, I just kind of wanted to wait because I felt like I was kind of in that same mode where I was immediately just defending, the character of Henry Ruggs and just everything that had been happening. I just didn't want to believe it. This kid, he's 22 years old, and it was just really something that we never thought would ever happen, just based on his character and his history of, him never getting as much as a traffic ticket, and just kind of the upstanding tradition that's at Alabama and how it pretty much translated to the Las Vegas Raiders and him never really being in trouble. And I mean, it's devastating the most for the family of the victim of, the senseless act done by Henry Ruggs. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm perfect and I'm better and I never have done anything that was boneheaded. And, it was a mistake. It was a fatal mistake. And, it was one that he'll have to live with for the rest of his life. Now, I just want to send deep prayers, condolences, and just healing to the family of Tina Tinter, who was the victim in this, just hard accident. Her and her dog did end up passing away. And, I was looking kind of around and, it looks like there was a gentleman by the name of Tony Rodriguez who actually was on the scene first. And he actually did try to, put out the fire since the car was up in flames. Now, there was some crazy footage on TMZ with it just engulfed in flames. And just from the interview that I watched, it was KTN V13 Action News, where, the gentleman, Tony Rodriguez, had spoke about, because he was the first witness on the scene. And he said it was about 10 minutes that it took until those flames kind of got to that point in time. And there was another person who had got there, and they had initially tried to not only cut the seatbelt, but also put out the flames that were existing at that time with the fire extinguisher. And the woman was breathing and she seemed to be responsive. And, that in itself was, amazing, just because the speed that Henry Ruggs did crash into her at 127 miles per hour. I know the speeds were upwards over 150 plus at one time. And I just, I really do believe that, whenever you are impaired to that point, you make a decision, whether it's conscious or not, whether or not you're going to take that risk. And he risked it. He really did risk it. And man, it's just a devastating incident. Like, I'm not even going to lie. I was at work And yeah, I had a really hard time concentrating. I was constantly looking for updates as the story continued. Uh, and Henry Ruggs made a life-changing decision that really is going to dictate what happens in the next few years, if not, many years, maybe over a decade plus. We don't know because, at this point, I mean, he does have the top Vegas lawyer that there is. I mean, and, him being an athlete and being a young athlete, he doesn't have a record at all. He does have, some financial stability. I mean, he is released from the Las Vegas Raiders at this time, so he does not have any further income. And he is being charged with DUI resulting in death and also reckless driving. So I guess the biggest thing to take away from this is, as bad as it is for Henry Ruggs right now and the family, this is just another reminder to make smart decisions when you're in a situation like this, to not risk at this level, especially just when you're under the influence, because it not only affects you, it can affect others and others that are, connected to whoever else is involved. I mean, you look at this young girl who's 23 years old, her and her dog passed away. The passenger in her vehicle was seriously injured. Now those families both, are deeply impacted. You have a young woman who never gets to see life again and never allows herself to evolve and grow and live out her dreams. And on the other flip side, you have Henry Ruggs, who was living his dream, who worked his ass off for his whole life and was taken away in a split second, for the poor decision that he made. I'm not going to sit here and bash him because that's just not who I am and that's just not what I stand for. There's a lot of people on Twitter just like, this guy needs to rot in hell, bury him under the prison. And it's like, listen, man, like at the end of the day, God's the only one who could judge us. And that's who makes the ultimate decision on where our final resting place is. Because even though you die in the flesh, your spirit either lives on or, goes to that, everlasting eternal damnation. And that's not for us to decide whether you believe it or not. Me personally, that's my own beliefs because I'm very spiritually connected. And I think right now, as exactly what Derek Carr said is, at this point, he needs as much love and support. And the thing is, if there are people who are not going to give that to him, then, that's even more reason that maybe we should step up and give that to him, especially the family who's suffering with the loss of their daughter. Because, at the end of the day, people's lives are impacted. On one hand, you have this family who lost their 23-year-old daughter. And now Henry Ruggs, he does have a young daughter, and the mother of his child was in the vehicle with him, which that kind of brings up even more questions on just why you would be speeding and just taking the risk when the mother of your child is with you. And from my understanding is they were at a sponsored event that was at Top Golf. From what we know, Henry Ruggs did reach out to Hunter Renfroe and Derek Carr approximately around midnight, just asking about his golf swing. And, all of us Raider fans, I know that there's the human element on the other side with the deceased woman, but all of us are just asking ourselves, why not just reach out to them again around 3 a.m. and just say, hey, man, I drank too much. I don't want to risk it. Can you come pick me up? Or call an Uber, Lyft, taxi service, whatever. Of course, that's the easy thing to say, but everyone's different in that situation, and what you would do and another person would do, that's something that they have to live with depending upon the decision they make, whether it's a responsible one or not. It was an irresponsible decision. It's a tragedy is what it turns out to be. And, my prayers go out, especially to his daughter, because, there's no timetable on how long he's going to be away once he does get sentenced, because right now he is out on bail. The bail was at $150,000. He does have the electronic monitoring, and he cannot drive. And he also got his passport taken away just for the potential flight risk. So, there is another court date on November 10th. He did have one today, which today is November 3rd. He had one at 9 a.m. And it's just terrible all the way around, man. It just really allows you just to kind of sit back. I know for me personally, it makes me sit back and just kind of think like every decision I make is going to impact my family, like no matter what that is. And we need to be selfless at those real pivotal moments in life where we have the decision that we can take a risk and maybe we'll get by. But the thing is ego can't get in the way when you make these type of decisions. Not saying that his ego did, but with his stature, being an NFL player, first round pick, he was pretty much a star receiver of the Las Vegas Raiders. And, he was just coming into his own, and it just breaks my heart to see that, it's all thrown away, all for a poor decision. And, again, now someone's family has to deal with the devastation of losing their daughter. And it sucks. It's a terrible situation. And it's just something that I don't think anyone deserves to be in. And it really raises some questions on the rate of speed he was going. From being at 157 at the highest, and then on impact it was around 156, 157, I believe. And then at the point of impact, it was 127 miles an hour, especially on a residential neighborhood. Being double the legal limit, whether you're over the legal limit or just at the legal limit, I think if there's any, signs of impairment, just do the safe route. You don't even have to worry about the what ifs and, hey, maybe I can make it home. It's just take the safe route. You have so much in front of you and so much hard work and things that are put into you that you don't have to put anyone else at risk, let alone your own family. And, the potential possibility of just not seeing your family ever again, or not being able to be there for your daughter growing up, or not being able to, go home to a healthy family. And it just kind of raises some questions to me. And there were some folks on social media who kind of brought it up where they said that they were reading some articles saying that he was trying to commit suicide. Now, I don't know whether or not that was the case, but if that was the case, that makes me worry for this poor man even more, because he's not only is he a young man, he's achieved so much in just 22 years of life. And, he had the mother of his child next to him, so maybe even though he was trying to take his own life, I mean, was he trying to take his baby mother's life as well? I mean, to me, there's a lot of questions that will probably never get answered. But at the end of the day, I just want to pray for him. I want to pray for him. I want to pray for the victim's family. And I just really wish that, nothing but healing and great things come from this, as terrible as a situation it is. And not only is it a lesson learned, but it's a growing opportunity. And, he's going to be forced to have to take accountability, whether he wants to or not, because when, you're in front of that judge and you replay the moments and you see the impact that you have on other people's lives, and it was on your poor decision making, it's just senseless. So that's all I really want to speak on it about that, just because it's a depressing topic, man. I'm not even gonna lie. And I think that I'm just emotionally exhausted just from like hearing about it, and just the sadness of the story on both spectrums of, two people's lives. I mean, yes, Henry Ruggs is alive. He's going to be able to, redeem himself and make a better life. And I know a lot of folks will say, well, she's not alive. And it's a terrible thing. And like 100%, I do believe that, people like that who do die, I think this is all, again, my own personal beliefs is, now they're in God's hands. And I think there's no better hands to be in. Even though I know death is a part of being in the flesh, Henry Ruggs has everything that he has to do right to make his life right. now that he has this resting upon his conscience and his shoulders and on his family name, because that's what he's going to be remembered as. So it's in his best interest to do everything he possibly can just to be a better man from it, own up to it, take accountability, and connect with that family and really let them know how he feels, and voice to them that it was a senseless act and it is something that he wants to be a better man from, and maybe even establish a relationship with. Like, I know it's kind of far-fetched to think like that, and you're probably like, what the fuck, like that's not even something that somebody would even think about. But when something like this happens, I think tragedy does one of two things. It makes you engulf yourself in more rage and hate, or it can open up your heart to being more connected and more loving, and just get that connection on a more positive level. So those are my thoughts about it. I don't man, it's so tough, just because I don't want to be selfish and just talk about the football side of it, because there's a life that was lost here, right? And I just really feel for not only his girlfriend, who was in the passenger seat, because she is seriously injured, but also for the other victim who was injured in the accident as well. And the thing is, hey, let's be honest, like, not only is he going to have to face charges for the death of someone and the reckless driving, but they're going to go after him for the other person who was severely injured, and they're going to try to get additional charges. Now, I know I was reading that in Nevada, it's 2 to 20 years mandatorily for, like, a mandatory minimum is 2 years as far as, DUI resulting in the death of a person. And then reckless driving, I believe it was anywhere between like 1 to 6 years, if I'm not mistaken. So that's just one of the people who passed away. Now he has to deal with another person who's going to, present charges, who was the passenger. So, I mean, me personally, I think he's probably going to get 7 to 10 years. And I think his career as an NFL player is over. The Raiders did the right thing with releasing him. And, they had to do their investigation, and they had to sort out all the information that they were provided with. And the biggest question mark is, why are you riding with a loaded gun? Like, I know it doesn't have relevance, I guess, in the case of, like, yeah, they just kind of threw that in there. But why are you riding around with a loaded gun? Like, that's just the kind of thing I don't understand. Like, I get, if you needed protection, I'm me personally, I'm not going to speak on my personal situation, but I know a lot of my homeboys, a lot of people, even family members, they ride around and just stay protected. Just because I live in Arizona, I feel like it's the Wild West, and I think Nevada is no different. But why on a night that you're going to be drinking and going out to an event like that? Like, I don't know. It's just, again, it just raises a lot of question marks, and it just kind of adds more insult to the injury. And it just, man, it's just a young, senseless act that resulted in tragedy and resulted in catastrophic results, and it's really something I really hope he grows from. I hope he has a great support unit around him. And I hope the family who had their daughter die, I hope they can heal through this, because death is never easy. I've been exposed to a lot of death in my life. So it's kind of gotten numb to me, especially being in the military. But I'm not saying that it doesn't affect me. It just, death affects everyone a little bit different, especially when it's a family member, especially your kid, I couldn't even imagine what that feels like. And it's just devastating, And just to wrap up just on this topic, because I kind of want to move forward and just talk about kind of where the Raiders are at. I just want to kind of end this tidbit with this, is just, let's hope for nothing but the best for Henry Ruggs, for the family and their healing, My prayers go out to both sides, and it definitely could have been avoided. It's definitely an avoidable situation, and it's a senseless act by a young man who made an extremely poor decision that had catastrophic results, and it's just devastating, So with that being said, I do want to talk about, the impact that it's going to have on the Raiders, because, after all, this is, Raiders podcast, and I kind of wanted to be respectful and talking about that situation and not kind of get too into it on my personal views on it. I just kind of wanted to go over what we know right now and kind of the little details of things. And yeah, it's going to be a long road ahead for Henry Ruggs, and he has my blessing as far as using this as a way to reinvent himself as a young man. And yeah, moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, how does this impact us? How does it impact us not having that deep threat, that speed threat of Henry Ruggs? Because last time I checked, he was about 20+% of our offense, and he was the reason where a lot of our wide receivers were open because there was attention drawn to him. So, the thing is Zay Jones is going to have a pivotal role, moving forward. And, when he was at East Carolina, I mean, as far as I know, he had almost 1,400 yards in his senior year, and he really did good. I mean, on all of his catches this year, I mean, he's averaging 19.2 yards a catch. So he's definitely made big plays for us. He had the big catch against Baltimore at Las Vegas to win the game. And, he had a critical third down conversion for 40+ yards against the Eagles that kind of started us on that raid of just going down and just scoring points every drive. And the things that I seen, shouts out to the Unfiltered Truth podcast, man, because I was watching them today. I think, they're a great group of guys, and I'll jump in on some of their Twitter spaces. Like the film that they were talking about seeing, I've seen the same, is Zay Jones is open a lot. He is open a lot. He knows how to get open. He's got quickness. I wouldn't say he has top end speed, because he's not going to take the top off of a defense, but he will get open. He has great hands, probably better than Henry Ruggs. And I mean, he's going to have a significant role now that we have Brian Edwards, Hunter Renfrow, and, Zay Jones now, and Darren Waller and Foster Moreau. So you got to look at who's going to step up, right? And I know that DJ Turner's on the practice squad, Dylan Stoner, and Javen Wims, the guy who we got from the Bears, and two names that are out there. We got to talk about it. I know people don't want to talk about it, but you got Deshaun Jackson, who just recently got released from the Rams. He does have to go through the waiver wire process, which it's unfortunate, because at our record at 5-2, we're about 7th from the bottom, 25th overall. So do I think that we'll get him? I don't. I really don't. But do I want him? Yes, because even at 34 years old, I think he could still play a pivotal role as a deep threat. And I definitely think Derek Carr would have a field day just because of his veteran presence. And he's a hell of a ball player. I know people don't like some of his personal stuff that he's said off the field, and some controversial remarks and whatnot. As a football player, I think in the right organization and the right fit, because I think the Rams, they weren't using him. So obviously, as he stands in his career, he wants to go somewhere that is going to utilize him. He's going to be involved in the offense, and somebody can throw him the ball and throw him the deep ball, because that's kind of what he's known for. Now, I know Matt Stafford can throw the deep ball, but I mean, let's just talk about it. Derek Carr this year is just the deep ball king. Like, he really is. And, he's throwing the top off of the ball. And I think that where he is right now, with the adversity that the Raiders are facing, we may see phase 2 of Derek Carr's Mamba mentality that he talks about so much, because he has free reign and his numbers are off the charts, man. Like, put some respect on my man Derek Carr's name. And I'm not gonna lie, I stay talking shit about Derek Carr, but I think it's just because I really want him to be great, and we haven't seen him lead this team. And yes, there are factors, that contribute to maybe his limitations and being held back. Gruden being probably the biggest one, just because he's an egomaniac, and he was really that in your face, you have to be perfect type coach, and probably caused a lot of tension and stress. So he couldn't play as freely as he wanted. But with Greg Olsen right now and this offense, I think Zay Jones is actually going to get a lot more action, especially how much Greg Olsen loves not John Gruden, sorry, brain fart, especially how much Greg Olsen loves Zay Jones. I think we'll see him a lot more involved. And with Djax on waiver wire and the possibility of us getting him, that's just another piece. Like, and I mean no disrespect by this and all. Absolutely no disrespect. But I don't think that losing Henry Ruggs is going to sink our offense. I just don't. I think it's going to allow younger players to start emerging and players to start playing more of a pivotal role that we haven't allowed them to, because they've been overshadowed by, these other players that are in the roles that they're in now. Because, Bryan Edwards moving up to that number 1 wide receiver position. Zay Jones will be in that number 3 slot, the number 3 position, as far as wide receivers are concerned. And then Hunter Renfrow is the number 2, which I think, Hunter Renfrow is right now a better receiver than Bryan Edwards, but Bryan Edwards, I feel like, has more of a higher ceiling, because, let's talk about it. Darren Waller's our best receiver that we have on the team, but he's a tight end. So I'm not going to throw him in that wide receiver. I know Mitchell Renza talked about, throwing Darren Waller out there and having Darren Waller be like a wide receiver 1, Bryan Edwards, Hunter Renfrow, and then Foster Moreau at tight end. Although that's great, and I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think it's what's going to be best for our situation with the offense. Just at this point in time, hey, we're sitting at 5-2. We're looking nice in the AFC. Everything that needed to happen on the bye did, with the exception of the Titans, because the Titans are still number 1, and we're number 2. And, the Chiefs, they won, and it's just kind of crazy to me, because it's like the Chiefs beat the Giants. Oh, they're back. Oh, they're the AFC West favorites. It's like, come on, man. So you're saying if they lost, then what? Then what's the outcome? It's almost aggravating just to hear that the Chiefs beat a team that's not great. They were 2-5 coming into that game. Now they're 2-6, and we traveled to New Jersey to go play them. And I'll go over that in the pregame podcast that I'm going to go over with my brother Anthony, because, again, it's solo dolo time. I just wanted to give you a little special, just to kind of talk and just get some stuff out. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm really trying to do here. Talk about the offense, talk about the Henry Ruggs situation, and just kind of, speak to Raider Nation, because, I kind of went all week and just thinking about it, and I'm just like, I need to drop some video. And I'm not the type of dude to go on YouTube Live. Again, I put absolutely zero money into Google AdWords to go advertise for this channel. I want it to be all organic. I want it to be by word of mouth. And I want to just continue to grow amongst Raider Nation. And call me a dumbass if you want. I don't care. That's how I want it to grow, because this is my channel. This is how I want it to be. I want it to be as authentic as I can. And, maybe down the road, I will throw some money around it, and I'll start getting these thousands and thousands of views that all these other folks do, who have YouTube channels, because, hey, they probably do it for a living. I got another job. I studied day trading. I take care of my family. I'm either boxing or at the gym lifting weights. And, I do this for fun, but it's my passion as well. So I just wanted to get on here and talk to y'all and just kind of talk about the state of the Raiders, where we're at with Henry Ruggs. Now that we've moved on from Henry Ruggs, what the situation looks like. And let's talk about it. And now that Henry Ruggs is gone, I don't think that this offense is going to be sunken. I just don't. Call me a dickhead if you want. I really don't care what anyone thinks. I think Zay Jones I think he's ready to step up. I think, as much as John Gruden loves Zay Jones, like I said, Greg Olsen loves Zay Jones even more. And Derek Carr even said it. He's never seen someone who has worked or practiced as hard, as Zay Jones. So, I mean, what does that tell you as far as Zay Jones' work ethic is? If you work hard in practice and you are out there giving everything you got to, shape your craft and just be the best player you can, when that opportunity comes, it's go time. And I really feel Zay Jones is going to do a great job. Now, again, he doesn't have that top end speed that Henry Ruggs did, but at the same time, D-Jax is on the waiver wire. And let's talk about the guy that Raidernation, I feel like is kind of split 50-50. They either love him or they hate him, call him a drama queen, say it's a distraction from the team, even though we've, dealt with so much adversity. But OBJ, the man is literally fighting his way out of Cleveland right now. And it's for one simple reason. OBJ is not the man that you throw one target to for 6 yards and you have a quarterback that can't get him the ball. And just OBJ is that main attraction, man. Like, you have to feed him. You have to give him the opportunities to make the plays. And I know he was injured, but you know what? That dude does play his tail off. He wants to win, and it's only going to benefit this Raiders team with his talent, his star power, and the attention that he would draw, because it will only help out our other receivers in developing. And you know what? He may be able to rub off onto some of our receivers that we have, just to kind of up their play ability and just their craft, because let's talk about it. OBJ is a top receiver in the league. Like, when OBJ is on, he is a top receiver in the league. Now, of course, injuries have kind of slowed him down the past couple of years, but I think he's ready to go and he wants to play and he wants to be on a contender. And if the Raiders want to make something out of this season, and I know the adversity has hit us with the John Gruden stuff and the Henry Ruggs situation, but it's fucking go time. And the thing is right now, if you want to send a message saying, you know what, we're going to pull together, we're going to band together, this is a band of brothers, and we're going to go because we're hungry and we want it, and we're going to do it for the man next to you, the man to the right and the left, and the new interim head coach, Bisaccia, and we want this team to stay together and be something, you need to make that approach and you need to make a move. Because as much as I love the players on this team, I think if we get either Deshaun Jackson or OBJ, it continues to open up the offense as to what we can be. And just remember, we got people returning from the IR soon. We still got DJ Fluker getting up to speed on the offensive line. Our offensive line is on the uptick, and that's the best news that we could have going into the bye. And, I just looked at the injury report today, and Hankins and Simpson were on there, and they were full participants. They're healthy, man. They are healthy. The bye did nothing but positive for us, aside from the Henry Ruggs, of course. I mean, that was devastating, but let's pull that out of the equation because that's already kind of a given. It's done nothing but positive things for us. And I think if there's anything that's going to come out of this next game against the Giants, it's the players continuing to communicate with each other, expressing themselves, where they're at mentally. Rich Bisaccia was talking about in the press conference today of how they do have the resource for these players. They have every resource. They have available. Their doors are open. The coaches are available, and they're here for one another. And I think that is a culture of winning. That's a culture of camaraderie. And that's a culture that is destined to be a winning culture, because when you have those open avenues of communication, you have that brotherhood that's deeper than what meets the eye, and you genuinely care and love the man to your right and left, and you would run through a wall for them. That's the type of team you want. That's the type of teammate you want. And I think that's the kind of players that we have. Now, we're a really young team. We are on the rise. And do I think it's necessary for us to make the playoffs this year? Contrary to what other people think out there, I absolutely think it is, because if we don't make the playoffs, Mayock will be out of there. We won't ever get to see what his potential is as far as the draft and free agency without the input of Gruden, because he's going to get players specifically for Greg Olson's offense and specifically for Gus Bradley's defense. And he has that power to do so. On the bye week, like I was mentioning with the Chiefs, they beat the Giants. The Chargers lost to the Patriots. That is a team to look out for, as the Patriots, because Mac Jones is getting more comfortable in Bill Belichick's system. And I think everything is still in front of the Raiders. How they respond to this adversity coming up with the Giants game, which, again, I'm going to be going over the pregame with my brother Anthony on the next episode. I'll probably record it on Friday or Saturday and post it as soon as I can, just because I usually have to edit it. But I want to get it out for you guys as soon as possible and go over kind of what we're looking at. But hey, this team is built, man, especially the defensive side. I mean, the defensive side is looking good. And I think this is one of the best defenses we had in the last 10 years. Now, I know people can kind of argue with the whole Khalil Mack and everything. Khalil Mack's an amazing player, but overall, our defense was not this good from front to back as when we had Khalil Mack, because I think we were still like 25th in the league, 26th, somewhere around there. And I think right now we're about 7 spots up, even more. I'm around probably 16, 18. But, we're continuing to rise. I think Desmond Trufant is going to get a little bit more involved. I think Faison is going to start playing a little bit more. We have a good rotation right now. I think those defensive players off this bye week are healing, and they're getting more acquainted with the system, especially those guys that we brought in. And Bisaccia is doing a great job of being there for these guys and being the leader that this team needs from the head coach position, but also delegating the leadership to the captains. And I think as much as, when Gruden was like, hey, these are the captains or whatever, it was still Gruden. And that was the only thing that really pissed me off, because it's like, yes, you have to lead, but you also have to delegate leadership to be the ultimate organization, because you can't have your hand in everything and expect these guys to respond when you're not in that position. You lead by example, and you allow your captains to lead by their play, their work ethic, and just their relationships that they have with each other, just to get the best out of the players around them. And I think Bisaccia is doing a great job with that. I really do. And I like Greg Olson and Derek Carr's dynamic, with the ability that Greg Olson is giving Derek Carr just to really lead this offense and do everything in his way, but with the mindset of what Greg Olson is putting out the ideas for. So he generates the idea, Derek Carr takes it in, he molds it, makes it his own, and he implements it. And I think with that, it's really going to go far with this offense. And I know for a fact, these next couple games that we're going to go through with the Giants, the Bengals, or the Giants, the Chiefs, the Bengals, then the Cowboys, these are going to be real pivotal games, and we need to be there for one another as far as the team is concerned. And even we as the fan base, because we've done nothing but support the Raiders through all this adversity. I think more now than ever, it's just the time to just uplift each other, appreciate each other, bring that positivity, because it's too easy to be negative in this world. Like I see it all the time, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I get sucked into it and I'll be talking shit, and I'll spew out some negativity and I have to reel it back and be like, listen, Nazo, like, don't be doing that shit. Don't get sucked into the trap. That's that red 666, Any Given Sunday reference. Shouts out to Jamie Foxx, Any Given Sunday. That's like one of my favorite football movies. Yeah, man, it pulls you in. And the thing is right now more than ever, with all the adversity that the Raiders are going through, we're going to really see how this team is built. And for me personally, I have one of my boys, I ain't going to mention his name, but he's very cynical. Let's just say that. He's very cynical, but he has good reason to be. And he goes to a lot of games, and he is an investor in the Raiders. And I gave him a hard time as we were going back and forth, one of our conversations. But I really think, and I really do believe that this team is built for adversity, and I think they're going to rise to the occasion. Now, when we go against the Giants in the pregame show, I'm going to go over it. The Giants have all the odd stacks against them with the unavailability of players. But we need to do exactly what Phil said on the Unfiltered Truth podcast. We need to put the pedal to the metal, man, and we need to come out the gate just smashing. Now, he didn't say that in those exact words, but that's pretty much what he said. Is he said just go full throttle, and just not look back. Because, if you see a team like that, that's vulnerable, they don't have their whole staff as far as their team on their first offense and first defense. We need to just stick it to them, and we just need to, ram it down their throats, man, and just go full blast, because that's what's going to get this team through this adversity, is going to help them band together. And we're sitting at 5-2, guys. It's not like we're sitting at 2-5. I know we've been hit with a lot of adversity with the Gruden stuff, the Ruggs stuff, but we have a great team. We're a compromise of a lot of great players, both young and, middle of their tenure in the NFL. But let's not forget, we have great veteran leadership. We have great captains, and everything is in front of us. We decide our own destiny. And at this point in time, we're first in the AFC West, right? We're first in the AFC West. I think our defense is only going to get better, and it's scary to see what Yannick and Max are going to do, because right now they are the best tandem. I believe it was back in, I want to say March. Maybe it was June. When Yannick said that, but he said they were the best duo. And damn it, they are. And I only expect them to only rise. I expect our linebacking core to get better. And I think Denzel Perryman is going to anchor that. And I really do believe in this secondary. And the big thing is getting Trayvon Mullen back. And with Trayvon Mullen, Brandon Faison, you got Desmond Trufant, Nate Hobbs, you have Jonathan Abram, Trayvon Moreg. And, I'd like to see Tyree Gillespie get some action in, because I know he's been playing special teams, but I want to see Malcolm Kuntz out there. Like, I really do want to see him out there. And I know he's been like a scratch pretty much every game. I don't know if it's injury related or what the case may be, but man, maybe Cleve Farrell will come alive, in the second half. But right now, your standouts are Max and Yannick on the front, with Solly, leading the way in the D tackles, and Quentin Jefferson. And, Hankins, of course, he's always been an impact player to me, predominantly in the run. But, with Damian Square coming in from the LA Chargers and him knowing this defense, he's actually like a Jonathan Hankins 2.0, I feel like, as far as like a run stuffer. And with Carl Nassib, I feel like he's going to kind of get some legs under him and continue to play well. And I really want to see my man Darius Philon just kind of come on, and I really want to see him pick things up. I think maybe he's been dealing with some lingering injuries. Maybe that's what the lack of productivity has been, or the lack of snaps. But I'm sorry, guys, I keep scratching. It's just my skin is super dry right now. I just need some lotion. So my apologies about that. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is focusing in on this run defense and seeing if there's ways to modify this defense to minimize the run the run plays of the opposing offenses, because at the end of the day, I think our linebacking core is pretty solid with Corey Littleton, KJ Wright, Denzel Perryman, and then, you got Kwiatkowski. And I don't know what happened with Javen White, why we released him, but I believe, he should be signed back to the practice squad with Nathan Peterman. And let me just check this out real quick. I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. So let's see here. Yeah, and I mean, as far as what happened with that situation, I know that we cut Javen White, and I know that Nicholas Morrow was due back as well, which I can't wait for Nicholas Morrow to come back, just because he's been one of my favorite guys, especially being undrafted. As far as, let's see here, let me just look up the Raiders roster real quick. So as far as transactions, let's see here. I'm sorry, I know this isn't the best here, but I just want to say, so Markel Lee is on the active squad. And I don't know why we signed Marcel Aitman to the practice squad, but we need to get Javen White back, because I don't see Javen White back on here. And Nathan Peterman, we signed back to the practice squad, and Dan Skipper was released from the practice squad. But we still do have 2 active roster spots. So that is promising for the Raiders. Just because, when it comes to stuff like that, it tells me that we're going to do something, right? Like, there's somebody who's going to come on the team and fill up those 2 roster spots, whether one of them comes off of IR and then we, do a trade for OBJ or get Djax. I mean, the Raiders do know something, and I don't want to speak ill about the competency of that front office, because I think things have been different. Things have been different since Gruden's been gone. It's been kind of pleasantly surprising for the better. So as far as I know, we did sign Daniel Helm to the active roster, just because, he was a guy who needed to be kind of elevated to the active roster, because I guess Bushman was dealing with that neck injury. He went on an IR. And then Hronis Grasu to the practice squad. That was kind of on the 25th of October. That's kind of like the recent stuff. And then with Markel Lee being on the active roster as another linebacker, and then Nathan Peterman to the practice squad, and Marcel Aitman. Again, I'm not really sure why Marcel Aitman's on there, but I think that we just have better talent that we can get just on the practice squad, because I think they're just waiting to see what kind of moves to make. But I mean, at this point, I appreciate you guys kind of just bearing with me here. I think we're in a good state right now as far as personnel wise, minus the wide receiver position. But overall, we're 5-2. Like I said, we're second in the AFC overall, first in the AFC West. We got a lot of promise. Our defense, they're going to be healthy. Everything's in front of us. So I love you all, Raider Nation. I know this was kind of like a lot shorter of a video than usual, because they're usually about an hour or longer. But again, it was just me. I just kind of wanted to get some stuff out, talk a little bit about some stuff, and really hone in on kind of that wide receiver position and just kind of the state of the Raiders right now and what needs to happen moving forward. So as always, I love you, Raider Nation. Thanks again for tuning in to the Rican Brothers Raidernation podcast. This video will be up as soon as possible. And I just want to say, man, I love y'all. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I hope you have a great night. Peace.